Now and just share our agenda with folks as we wait for the last group of people to come in. And if you can, please either put into the chat or change your name on your Zoom so that we know who you are, and if you're representing an organization, that information as well. Again, you can either change your Zoom name, but if you don't want to do that, you can just put that information into the chat and we'll save all of this. And I think, here we go. All right. So great. And I will stop sharing so folks can actually see each other for this important first part. So again, welcome for everyone who's here. I see a lot of familiar faces from our initial community update meeting a few months ago, as well as some faces who we've been meeting and talking with in between. So thank you all for being here. I'm really, really excited for this meeting because the first order of business is for me to be able to introduce the new director of our Refugee Resettlement Office here in Brattleboro. It's the Multicultural Community Center that is part of the Ethiopian Community Development Council, which is the group we heard from during our last meeting. Without further ado, I would really, it's my honor to introduce Joe Wea, a longtime Brattleboro resident. And Joe, I just love to hear from you just a short bit about your work and in past and in the future.
Oh, thank you, Alex. And I want to welcome every one of you here. I know we all are busy, but thank you for taking time off in your schedule to be here. I also want to thank you, Alex, for putting this together, and also Kate, who has been working so hard with you from the Community Asylum Seeker Program. Thank you all. And my colleagues from ECDC, thank you so much. As Alice said, my name is Joe. My last name is pronounced Wea. If you just say we are, that's okay. Prior to joining ECDC, I worked extensively in Africa and then moved to the US about 12 years ago. Went to SIT, graduated, stayed in the Brattleboro area, worked for Pathways Vermont and Pathway DC, and lastly worked for Southeastern Vermont Community Action SEFCA. In that role, I was the housing case manager, but I did a lot of things. So that gave me a front row as to the kind of services we have here. My current role, I am the director for the ECDC Multicultural Center here in Brattleboro. And in that role, I will be coordinating the resettlement program here in our community. That means working with all service providers that are interested in the refugee resettlement program. So I'll be coordinating that program with colleagues that I will be working with, and also with partners that are interested in the resettlement program. I have a presentation that I will give. Alex, do you want me to start, or you want me to wait until time for presentation to start a presentation? What do you suggest there?
Yeah, I think we'll do some just a few more introductions and then get into what I think folks are most excited about, which is the presentation and the update on where we are as a communities. Okay. So
yes. All right, great. So,
Also on the call today, we have Tracy Dolan, who is the state refugee coordinator for the state of Vermont. And Tracy, I don't know if you'd like to say just a few words about what your role is and how the state's involved.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy, and I'm the director of the State Refugee Office. I was formerly coming from public health. I was the deputy commissioner of the Department of Health for many years, and so this is a new role for me. Joe and I were talking this morning, and he is 5 days in, and I am 25 days in. So I have 5 times more experience than he does today. But really excited to be in this role. My background is public health. I did a lot of international work in public health, sub-Saharan Africa, a variety of countries with HIV and maternal child health, and also some post-conflict work in child protection in northern Uganda after the terrible war there. And also in Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan just after the Taliban fell in 2002, doing some child protection work there as well. So some familiarity with our current crisis. And I have some, sadly, some connections there with people who are unable to get out right now. And feeling very passionate as I start this role. Really excited to see a new resettlement agency. It's been wonderful to just get to know Joe over the last few days, and also working with Alex prior to that. And Alex, I don't know if you wanted me to give you the team a little bit of an update about kind of where we are generally with the refugee program, and you let me know. Does that make sense, Joe and Alex?
Yeah, I think that'd be great to give a statewide view, because we're going to be following up with the local context just after this.
Sure. Okay. So in Vermont, I'll just kind of historically the trend on refugees. From about 2008 through to about 2016, we were consistently close to 300, in some cases more than 300 refugees per year coming into Vermont. And then in 2016, there was a change in federal administration and a change in the refugee and immigration policies. And so we saw a significant drop. And so in the last few years now, we have been at 70 or 60. This year so far, 41 refugees, 51 altogether, if you count some people who are not in the classic refugee category. So pretty low in terms of our numbers. We're obviously seeing a big turnaround with this administration. Each year, the administration sets a limit or a cap on the number of refugees that the United States will bring in, and that comes from the White House, that cap. And so that cap was very low for many years, and so it has been significantly raised. I don't know if it's final, but I think it's at 65,000, something like that. The Afghan crisis has impacted everything. Prior to the Afghan crisis, I believe there was a thought that refugees would be coming from a variety of places, and they still may, but the bulk will likely be coming from Afghanistan. As you know, in mid-August, things quickly spiraled downward, and well over 120,000 people were evacuated from Afghanistan, primarily airlifted out through the military. A lot of those folks were, our military, other kind of Americans. They're working, green card holders, some special people with special immigrant visas, but about 60,000 of them were also people that we would refer to as Afghans at risk, who weren't necessarily finished processing visas or even at the start of processing visas. Again, people leaving because the situation became very dire. And, the definition of a refugee is someone leaving a situation where it is too dangerous for them to stay, in a nutshell, and it's too dangerous for them to be there. They are either being targeted or would likely become targeted by the Taliban there. So those folks coming out, most of the ones who are in that at-risk group, and again, those numbers are changing all the time, most have arrived here in the US, primarily at some welcoming centers and military bases. Some are still out in other countries, what they refer to as lily pad countries, so jumping from one country before they come here. In some cases, folks might stay in those countries for a few weeks. In some cases, they may stay longer. It depends on their status. The security screening for this particular group of Afghans takes place outside before they come into the US, and more than one agency is involved in that, but it's led by the Department of Homeland Security. Some medical screening also occurs before they arrive in the US. And then the majority, I think between 40 and 50,000 of them, are here in the US at these welcoming centers. And the State Department, so the State Department is in charge of, with their partners, the Office of Refugee Resettlement and the Bureau for Population, Refugee and Migration. So those are the two arms, Office of Refugee Resettlement and the Bureau of Population, Refugee Migration. They help to determine what to do with refugees as they arrive and where they go. And so the State Department is now sending refugees from these US bases and welcoming centers to communities. Their hope was to send about 4,000 a week to different resettlement agencies. Because it was such an influx, the State Department asked refugee settlement agencies. And so in Brattleboro now, you have a new refugee settlement agency. We have one other in Vermont, and that's USCRI. You may have known them before as the Vermont Refugee Resettlement Program. So every agency put in an application for how many they think they could take. And so USCRI put in for 100. And I'm sure Joe will share more on his numbers. I think it's 25 for ECDC here in Brattleboro. And with all of the requests that went in, almost every refugee resettlement office in the United States put in to say we can take some. But even with all of that, that probably equals around 30 or 37,000. But the numbers will be higher than that coming in terms of the Afghans. Normally when people come in and they have an option of where to go, they're going to go where they already have ties. And they're saying that about 80% of the Afghans coming in do have some ties in the US, so about 20% don't. So Vermont tends to get those who are less likely to have ties, probably. And so, but it's hard to say, some may have ties here. They did suspend this idea of kind of pick your place, in part because those places are pretty saturated. There's a handful of places that have large Afghan communities. California is one. And there are others, and those places are getting quickly saturated. So they are trying to instead send folks, where they'd be willing to go. And so we've been told that, they could be arriving anytime now. And this is for the USCRI application. I think Joe will give you maybe a different timeline for ECDC. But we did get approved for USCRI for the 100 last week. They could be arriving in the next few weeks or later. It could be up to 5 to 6 months. It's unlikely folks are going to show up all at once. We don't know what the skill set is. We know that some people leaving Afghanistan are interpreters. They might be lawyers, they might be doctors and engineers, but we know others also might be extended family who may not have that kind of skill set. We don't know if it's going to be families or single adults. We'll know that just before they arrive, probably a week or two before they arrive. The resettlement agency gets that information and so then knows that. For USCRI, the plan is to start placing them with host families for the first few months while they look for housing. And they have some experienced host families that they'll probably work with initially. And the plan is to first start with Chittenden County, and then depending on the number, possibly extend to another community like Rutland, for example. They have been talking to Rutland, and Rutland seems quite mobilized there. I think I'll pause there. And my role, just to understand the state office role. So in Vermont, we have a public-private partnership. So the state refugee office, which is my office, partners with resettlement agencies. So some funding comes in through my office, and I grant and administer that out to the refugee agencies or others serving. And in some cases, the Office of Resettlement might contract directly with the resettlement agency. It's a mixed approach. So we try to coordinate So when the state says this is how many refugees we want, that doesn't come from the governor's office, that comes from the resettlement agency, but ideally in coordination, because the State Department wants to know that we're all in lockstep. All right, that's my blurb. Hope that wasn't too long.
Great. Thank you so much, Tracy. And we'll also see just a short video in a few minutes also that explains more of this. Before we move forward too much on what will be happening shortly, I do think it's really important to acknowledge the work that's already being done in our community. And I'd like to introduce Kate from CASP, the Community Asylum Seekers Project, who's been a partner in our region's effort to support immigrants of all kinds. And so, Kate, if you just want to provide a short update on your work and organization, that would be great.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks to everybody for being here in the middle of a workday. My name's Kate Pearl-Berquam. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Asylum Seekers Project. CASP started in 2016. And since then, we have resettled or sponsored or welcomed in various cases 20 asylum seekers, which are people fleeing political persecution in their countries of origin. 20 folks have settled here from Central America, Mexico, the Caribbean, and West Africa. We rely on a local network of more than 200 volunteers to serve as host homes, host families, and teams of volunteers who surround each asylum seeker to help us provide basic needs and a community welcome. So some of the things that we do with folks are to provide legal aid and connections to pro bono immigration attorneys, job training, job placement, housing, healthcare, connections to health insurance when it's accessible, helping kids enroll in school, social visits, language learning, all the sort of wraparound services that people need. We also offer community education opportunities in terms of workshops that we offer the community that we feel better equip us to serve asylum seekers from particular backgrounds. And we collaborate with other organizations, both in Brattleboro and Southern Vermont, and also across the state. We help to coordinate a statewide network of asylum support organizations, of which there are 6 or 8 organizations up and down the state who do similar work. And now for several months, we've been working alongside ECDC to embed its efforts in Brattleboro. And you'll hear more about this, but the status with which Afghans are now going to be arriving in Brattleboro is closer to that of an asylum seeker than a refugee. So we're really, really happy to lend what knowledge we have of the community resources for those folks to Joe as he moves forward. In terms of who is on our staff, my background is in academia. I have a doctorate in Latin American and Caribbean studies and did work on displacement, transitional justice, and post-conflict in Colombia. So, all of us are kind of have this background. My colleague, Dora Urgeni, is our case manager. Dora is a former member of parliament for Rwanda and has a master's in conflict transformation and peace building. And she's here somewhere, but I can't see her on my screen. So so we're happy to be here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Dora.
Hi.
Happy to be here lending the support we can to this exciting project. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Kate. So next I'm going to play just a short video. A lot of it will mention similar things that Tracy talked about, but I think it's just a great place to start on the overarching understanding of refugee resettlement. So let me just do that really quickly. Can everyone see the video screen?
Resources for
And
refugees.
can people hear it?
Resettlement services. What is a resettlement agency? A resettlement agency is a nonprofit organization that cooperates with the United States government in a public-private partnership to assist refugees who come to the United States through the United States Refugee Admissions Program. There are 9 resettlement agencies in the United States that operate on a national level. These national resettlement agencies have local offices in the cities where refugees live, though the local offices may operate under different names. Some of the resettlement agencies have different religious affiliations, but they are not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race, national origin, religion, or the sex of the refugee, or on the basis of having a physical or mental disability. These resettlement agencies have been helping refugees from all over the world resettle to the United States for many years. They provide critical support to refugees and their families during their first months in the United States. The role of the resettlement agency. The United States government sets guidelines and provides funding for the basic services that refugees receive. But the resettlement agencies and other organizations deliver the services and may offer other help as well. The resettlement agency will connect you to other services that you need to start your new life. Services and assistance are limited, and different refugees may receive different services because of factors such as family size, ages of family members, resettlement site, and income. First 30 days. Initial services are meant to help refugees get started on the path to new life in the United States. Resettlement agencies will help you with basic services and living costs for your first 30 days in the United States. Some agencies will pay your expenses directly. Others may give some of the money to you and show you how and where to pay certain expenses yourself. Up to 90 days. The 30-day period can be extended up to 90 days after arrival if the resettlement services you need cannot be completed in 30 days. You will need to start looking for a job as soon as possible. The resettlement agency is not required to find a job for you. The resettlement agency is also not required to provide you with a phone, television, car, or computer, or pay your travel loan and other bills. You will need to work to earn money to purchase these items and pay your own expenses. Required services. These are the services that all resettlement agencies must provide or make sure that someone provides to all refugees during their first 30 days in the United States. Meet refugees at the airport and provide transport to housing. Provide necessary seasonal clothing. The clothing does not have to be new, but it must be clean and in good condition. Arrange safe, decent, and sanitary housing. Provide each adult in the family with a small amount of money for personal spending. Provide basic furniture and household items. The items do not have to be new items, but they must be clean and in good condition. Provide food or food allowance according to family size until food stamps are received, or the family can provide its own food. Help with application for cash and medical assistance. Help with application for a Social Security card. Help with enrollment into an English language class if appropriate. Provide transportation to job interviews and job training. Help with enrollment in employment services if appropriate. Help with obtaining health screenings and any health services needed. Help with registration with selective service for males between the ages of 18 and 25. Help with enrolling and registering children in school. Provide orientation to the community and life in the United States. Provide transportation and interpretation as needed for all required services. Moving to another community. There are many good reasons for staying in your resettlement community. If you consider moving to another community, you will be responsible for your own move and for finding any support services you may need in your new community. It is best to discuss your thoughts about moving with your resettlement agency before you move. You must notify the U.S. government of your new address within 10 days of moving.
Great. So I think as folks probably noticed, our resettlement agency here, and Joe will give a presentation in just a moment about what he'll be doing and the work they'll be doing. But it really is going to be a community-wide effort to ensure these folks have everything they need after day 91. And then, of course, our goal is that these folks will choose Brattleboro as their long-term home. because as it said, they're able to move anywhere they'd like after. And so I think that's, why we're all here today, is so that this is a community effort to welcome and support these folks longer term. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Joe, Joe Wea, who will be providing an overview of ECDC's program here in Brattleboro. And I will share this, hopefully. Can folks see the PowerPoint? Great.
Yes, I can see. Yeah. Again, thank you everyone for coming. For those who just joined us, I'm the director for the ECDC MCC office here in Brattleboro. But before we go, I also want to recognize that my colleague Jessica Chapman is here. Jessica is the executive director here.
He is not, but thank you, Joe.
All right. So my presentation will just give you the next steps for our office here, and then that will be followed by questions and answer. Please bear with me. As Tracy mentioned, I'm only 5 days in my new role, but I have Jessica here to answer some of the questions. Give answers to some of the questions I may not have answered to. Can you go to the next slide, Alex? So ECDC has been approved to resettle Afghans that have been evacuated across its network throughout through the Department of State's Afghan Placement and Assistance Program. We're still waiting for our fiscal year 22 proposal to be approved, but we have been given the authorization to begin resettling refugees in Brattleboro through the fiscal year 21 cost extension. Our office here in Brattleboro, I'm the director, and I officially started on Monday. Can you move to the next page? So to give you a kind of context, we have two different resettlement programs. The Afghan Placement and Assistance Program will serve individuals who were evacuated from Afghanistan to escape imminent harm after the Taliban takeover and enter the United States on a humanitarian parole. That means they were, they don't have all of the full status as a green card holder. So some of them will have to apply for asylum. Our other program is the reception and placement program that serves individuals from around the world who have been legally determined to be refugee and gone through the U.S. refugee admissions program process, resulting into resettlement to the United States. We watched the video before, but just to continue to give you the context to what services that will be providing. Housing is part of that, and I know some of you on this conference call are housing providers. We will also name partnership with transportation service providers, healthcare, employment, education, as well as community connections. Go ahead, Alice. So our reception and placement core services, the services we will be working with all of you to be providing. We are obligated to provide these services post-arrival, not exceeding 30 to 90 days, and ensure services are documented. We will be providing decent, safe, and sanitary housing, predetermined list of furniture and household items that need to be in good condition, as was mentioned in that video clip, food and food allowance, appropriate seasonal clothing, appropriate amount of pocket money, assistance in applying for cash and medical assistance, social security cards, assistance in accessing health screenings and appropriate health services. They will also need assistance with enrollment in English language programs, employment services, and other services. Assistance for school enrollment for children, learning and transportation in compliance with local motor safety laws, transportation to job interviews and job training, assistance with filing necessary paperwork as required, cultural orientation, public assistance like the U.S. laws, cultural safety, etc. And so, as you can see, there are so broad core services that need to be provided, and ECDC, MCC office here in Brattleboro cannot do all of that alone. So we will count on the community to help us provide these services. Next slide. Can you hear me, Alex?
Did it work? Did it move to the next slide? Are we on?
No, you stay on the differences.
The differences between the two programs, yeah? Or can we not see that?
Okay, so can everyone see the differences between the two programs? The African Placement and Assistance Program will be a rapid placement as individuals are coming from safe havens within the U.S. So right now they are in different parts of the country, and they will be coming from that for our region to come to the Brattleboro area. Individuals will need legal assistance to adjust their status and obtain legal permanent residence. So as I said, some of the folks that will be coming come on a humanitarian parole because they were in imminent danger. So the government airlifted them, but that did not give them green card right away status. So which means they have to adjust their status through the asylum process. Without legislative change, individuals are not eligible for federal benefits offered to refugees until their status is adjusted. And so we're hoping that there might be that some kind of law passed by Congress. We don't know yet. Tracy can speak more about that. Program period is from September to March of 2022. Our other program is the reception and placement program that I talked about earlier. Typically, there's a 2 to 3 weeks prior notice before arrival, and because it goes through the regular refugees resettlement program. Individuals will be coming from around the world. So this group, people who fall into this category are not only Afghan, they may come from other parts of the world. And they will be able to enroll into federal benefits programs such as Medicaid, food stamps, Reach Out program in the first 30 days because they will be coming with status. They will be offered, those who are offered a special immigrant visa, which is SIV, as well as refugees, will be entitled to these benefits. So SIVs are different from those who are just coming on a humanitarian parole. SIVs are people who already are granted some kind of status, and most of these people are people who work with the U.S. military and that were given these special visas before they got on the flight to come. The program period continues and will depend upon annual agreement with the State Department. Can we go to the next slide? So what happens next? And this is specific with our office here. This next month, our hiring of staff continues. We'll be hiring case manager as well as co-sponsor coordinators. And we will explain in some time what a co-sponsorship means. We will reach out to organizations and community members who will be interested in having co-sponsorship. Alice will also give you a link of those who want to sign up to go on our website and sign up for co-sponsorship. This month also we will organize public education events. So we will reach out to groups and service provider communities to create awareness of what our next steps are and what will what the expectations are and when people will be arriving. We will hold a co-sponsorship information section when people sign up on our website that they want to be part of this process, they want to co-sponsor. We will call an information section to explain what our process is going to be. We will formalize and train co-sponsor groups. We will prepare logistics for first families, meaning families to be arriving. So then the whole logistics piece, housing, things that we need to have in place before they arrive. We will reach out to community partners to identify and develop areas of partnerships. As I said earlier, we can provide all of these services directly. So we will work with you, community partners, to specific areas that you can identify and say, this is what I can support the program. In November and December, we will welcome our first families. It's estimated to be 10 individuals. We will also hold regular stakeholder meetings to solve problems and prepare to scale up. And then in January to October, we scale up resettlement up to 75 individuals. But going back to that November and December, my understanding, and Jessica can correct me on that, we also expect to have 25 of the Afghan parolee. Am I correct on that, Jessica?
Yes, that's right.
All right. And next, Alex. So I just want to leave you with this quote from our president, and it reads, "To meet the challenges of restoring and expanding U.S. RAP, the United States must innovate, including by effectively employing technology and capitalizing on community and private sponsorship of refugees, while continuing to partner with resettlement agencies for reception and placement." Unquote, from President Biden. And this is why we place so much emphasis on the co-sponsorship program, because we want this to be a community effort and a sustaining effort as well. So I'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Hi, Joe. Can I ask Alex to remove the screen share so we can see each other?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, thank you. Joe, one, congratulations on the new job. We're really excited to have it be you, and I look forward to that. I have two questions and one comment. Regarding the housing needs, what are y'all seeking? Are y'all seeking people to like sign leases or informal room shares? For instance, somebody might have a room in their home and they can open that up to a refugee. And two, regarding partnerships, I would just encourage you to talk to us specifically regarding, we'll talk to United Way, specifically regarding partnership in dental services and health equity through the Windham County Dental Center.
Great, thank you. Actually on my list of people to reach out to, Ruby. We've come a long way, so I know where you are. Yes, so we will reach out to you guys to discuss as to how we can develop partnership and which areas to collaborate. Regarding housing, and my colleagues may come in, we are looking at different approaches, because as you know, housing is one of the key things so limited in our community right now. So we are open to, if there are landlords on this call who have units available and say, look, I'm willing to rent to people that are coming, that is very, very good, fantastic, because we want a sustaining process. We also are open to families who are willing to open up their homes and say, I can host this family at my home right now. I have a room available. We also open up to that. We are in discussion with other partners. I don't want to put SRT on the spot right now, but we in that discussion and see how we also collaborate and partner with SIT on a housing front.
Good, thank you, Joe.
One piece of clarification I'd like to add is that the housing requirements of folks coming in from the RNP program are different than those coming in through the Afghan placement program. So those coming in through the Afghan placement program will be able to be hosted in homestays that Joe mentioned, and then those coming in through the formal refugee program will need to be resettled immediately in their own apartments or homes. And so that is something that at the end of this meeting, we'll send out lots of links about how to donate, how to volunteer, whether it's time or housing or materials. So all of that information will come at the end of this meeting. But yeah.
I have a question with regard to employment. Last year or 2 years ago, when the first refugees came from Cuba under the CASP program, they were not allowed to work for 6 months. Now, has that been changed?
So for everyone that is coming, to be it those coming under the humanitarian parole and those who are coming as refugees will have work authorization. So that means they will have permission to work when they come in. So when they come in, they are able to apply for job.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Elizabeth, I see your hand raised. I'll go down my list of raised hands here.
Thank you. Joe, just want to echo Ruben's congratulations and looking forward to working with you. I have a kind of a technical question, and then just want to invite you to come and meet with us individually so that we can share some of the specifics around applying for housing with the Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust, which is very different than a private landlord. And we can do that in advance of folks coming in and do some preparation work so that the process of application might go a little bit smoother. But my question was, you use the word co-sponsor, community partners, stakeholders. I just want to understand those three distinctions of the constellation of community support.
Jessica, you want to explain that, or you want me?
I'm happy to jump in. Thank you. My name is Jessica Chapman. I work as the Director of Community Engagement at ECDC's National Office. We are hoping to really focus on co-sponsorship for the Brattleboro office. And today, Joe and I were meeting and going through what that looks like. But our co-sponsorship program is an opportunity for community members to organize yourselves in a minimum of 7 people. So it requires 7 people come to get together, raise a minimum of $3,000, and help to provide a majority of the core services that are required through the APA and RNP programs. So that is done in close collaboration with the local staff and case managers, but does provide a real opportunity for community members to get involved in the welcome and delivery of services. So we're really excited to have co-sponsorship be kind of a flagship program of our Brattleboro office. And imagine with the low numbers compared to our other sites that Brattleboro will have, we do hope that every family that comes in, we ideally could pair with a co-sponsorship group. So looking forward to supporting those efforts. In terms of other partnerships, we plan and have been working very, very closely with CASP and BDCC and are developing more formal agreements to outline what that looks like. And I think Joe has planned to reach out to other stakeholders who have, such as SIT, written letters of support in our initial application. So those are those types of partnerships that can happen as well. And then we will also be developing more broad opportunities for engagement through shorter volunteer opportunities. But I'll let Joe and CASP speak to those as well.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you too. Yeah, so Widow and Windsor Housing Trust is one of the organizations I've also planned to reach out to, and I will send in an email at some point to set that up. Again, as I said, it's just only 5 days right now, so there's a lot to put together. I'm still organizing the office, and then after I clear out of those, then I'll start reaching out to partners to see where we can, strengthen our relationships.
Yeah, we have a lot to learn too, but we just had a good experience working with CASP in placing somebody, and so we're excited to be involved and learn together and see what we can do to help people find a safe place to live.
Great, thank you.
Representative Boslan, I see your hands up. Thanks.
Yeah, hi. I'm not sure that you'll be able to address my question. I heard you allude to it. But as an SIT alum, I'm wondering about the idea of new housing opportunities that are going to be available to house refugees that would be coming into the community. One of the things I've heard as a concern in the community is that there's such a shortage of available housing. If we bring in refugees, that's going to make it worse. So I'm wondering if you can speak, a little bit more to using SIT or another space that would be opening up new housing opportunities in our community, as opposed to just trying to fit people into existing housing, which is already in such short supply.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to answer that. So we're of course well aware of the housing shortages, and SIT is certainly a partner in looking at the long-term availability of housing there. But we're also a part of the conversations going on in our community, led by housing partners who are actively looking to add units all across the community. So whether it's the Winston Prouty campus, who we know is looking to develop that space, or others, that is work that housing folks have been spending years thinking about already, and we're part of those conversations in doing that. And the fact of the matter is also that we have a number of private landlords who are already opening their homes and offering these units. So I think that there is in fact space for everyone in our community. I know it's tight, but I think that our goal is to be able to do this slowly but surely initially as these larger housing projects are made available. One thing we are really clear about is that we are working and speaking closely with Josh Davis and Groundworks to make sure that we're not competing for housing that is currently being used by folks in temporary or emergency housing. So, we know the motel program and that, a moratorium that was just extended. We're really ensuring that regardless of the outcome of that, we won't be competing for the same kinds of housing as the folks in most dire need. So not to say there isn't a housing crisis, but I think that, again, no one will arrive in our community until there's been housing secured for them. And so this will just happen at the pace that we find and make housing available.
Okay, thanks. I'm wondering also if either Alex or Joe, if you could speak to, I heard the number 25 in terms of people that would be coming to Brattleboro, and I've heard that some portion of those may actually be placed up in the northern part of the county where I live in Westminster or perhaps in Bellows Falls. Is there any designated idea at this point about what number of people might be coming to which parts of the county, or is that not clear yet?
We are not clear yet as to which part of the county people will be coming, but what we know is 25 of the Afghan parolee will be coming, as well as hope for the 10 refugees will be coming. So the total of 35 between November and December will be coming in our area.
Okay.
I also wanted to add to what Alice said about the housing. We are aware and of the housing shortage in our communities. And I think we are also from ECDC going to work with all housing providers and the coalition of housing to see how we find a sustainable, solution to this process. I think this is a time to open more the conversation as to a sustainable approach to our housing shortage. And we from ECDC are really open to have that conversation with all providers. So we will be reaching out to everyone to have that conversation. But we want to assure folks we will use our time to work with everyone so that we don't have competing needs.
Thank you.
Judy Greenberg, I see your hand is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here representing Brattleboro area Jewish community, and honored to be here. We already have 16 people who have volunteered to be part of our co-sponsorship group. I have two questions. One is, what's the expectation about how long that co-sponsorship, what's the official kind of length of that? I know people will make personal relationships that will last for a very long time, but in terms of the official amount of support, how long should we tell our volunteers that they will need to be engaged in this process for? That's one. And the second is, do we know what the COVID vaccination status will be of the individuals and families who are moving here? That will certainly help us in terms of finding, if we need to find host families, that would be a very important concern.
Thank you, Judy. To the length of time, Jessica, you want to speak to that? But I think if I'm not mistaken, it should be about 9 months. Jessica, am I right on that?
Yeah, we've designed the program as a 12-month program, with the first 3 months being pre-arrival. So the organizing, the preparation, the fundraising, and then 9 months of initial resettlement, and then sort of that post 90-day period. So we envision co-sponsorship groups engaging for a 12-month period.
Great, thank you.
And the vaccination question?
I can answer that. This is Tracy Dolan. COVID vaccination is part of the medical screening before arrival into the United States, along with some other vaccinations. So that is one of the things that happens before arrival.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Kornheiser.
Thanks. I noticed a mention on one of the slides about the need for legal representation for people to shift their status, and I wondered what the capacity you're looking at is for that.
I can speak to that. CASP works with asylum seekers to contract pro bono or low bono immigration attorneys, and the capacity is very low, to be honest. And so we are in touch. We're working on a nascent project with the South Royalton Legal Clinic and Becky Wasserman, who is the counsel of the legislative council for the state. And we are trying to increase the state's capacity over the next year or two to support more attorneys who want to do pro bono immigration work. But we do have a network throughout the state of pro bono attorneys who do this work already, and I suspect there are more who would if they were approached. So that's something that we're actively working on, and happy to have any tips or help.
Also, to add on that, this morning when Tracy and I discussed, we also talk about some of the pro bono lawyers that are across the state that Kate just mentioned. We are also trying to reach out to the Vermont Law School, the legal clinic there, to see how they also help in this process. So we will reach out to our partners and also CAPS here, who have so much of resources in this area, and work with all of them to to help provide the folks coming with some legal representation.
Great, thank you. Cindy.
Thank you, Alex.
Hey.
Thank you for hosting this, and welcome, Joe. Congratulations on launching. We're very excited, and I just want to extend from the entire Vermont Department of Labor team that we're excited and ready to help serve the families as they get here. And I look forward to reaching back out to you and connecting at your convenience. You're only on day 5, so we're not gonna get in front of you right now, but when you get settled, we'll go ahead and meet and then figure out what the best next steps would be. But I just wanted to put that out there. We're excited and we can't wait to work with you.
Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, I will. I look forward to reaching out to you guys too and then discuss. Thank you.
Great. I see a hand from Judy, a real life hand. And then Jim, you're next.
My question is about the legal services and the legal status. For the parolees, is asylum the only alternative for them to get some legal status?
As far as I know right now, yes.
Joe,
Yes,
let me jump in here. Hello, everyone. This is Emily. I also work with Jessica here at ECDC's headquarters, and I do participate in working groups here at national level of other resettlement agencies that are working on advocacy and trying to stay up to date. And so I just wanted to add that right now it's not clear, but we are advocating for other alternatives besides just the asylum process. I know Kate, as I'm sure, could attest that right now there's a huge backlog and the program is not very efficient. There's a lot of appeal processes and all of that. So we have such a large number of individuals that will be looking to process. So we're really advocating for other avenues to be opened up besides kind of the commonly known and used asylum process that we know has these different barriers. So that is still to be determined, but it's a key advocacy point that we are making and encourage other people to raise up their voices and also speak to the need for those types of legislative solutions. So thanks.
And Jim.
Let me add my welcome and congratulations to Joe and Jessica and Emily and our CASP friends who are already doing so much. I have a question and then a comment. The question is, of course, what we're talking about, meeting the basic needs of these individuals comes first. And I find it wonderful that so many ideas are percolating here. But I'm hoping also that we can welcome them as a group, welcome them socially, recognizing and appreciating their culture. And I wonder if any thought's been given to that. My comment, Judy Greenberg, please excuse me for this, but Judy, who just spoke earlier, as some of you know, but all of you may not know, is a therapist who works with people in countries like Afghanistan who have been experiencing trauma. And she has worked with many Afghanis. And so, again, I can't speak for her because she's up to her gills in work, but just so that people know, in a crisis situation, we do have Judy Greenberg in our community.
Thank you, Jim.
And CASP has worked with Judy for years and just wants to second what a valuable resource she is in the community.
Thank you. Dora.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to jump in. Absolutely.
Thank you, Judy.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Yeah, mine is not a question, it's at the same time an idea. So I saw in Joe presentation about education events. And does ECDC or who that this task belong to, educate even us or the welcome community about Afghan culture. Culture goes beyond the language. Yeah, we would like to know, all that package for people who are gonna host or even us to get ready or to prepare ourselves. I think that education is really more important to know and not really have like culture shock or, yeah. And my second idea, it's an idea I'm giving. I know people gonna be hosts in family hosts and getting the interaction, but it doesn't really, it's a good idea to plan with the Wyndham Housing Trust ahead of time, because these people are coming with the work permit already. And once they get a full-time job, they will need their own space. I know how people gonna be needing their own space or moving to their own apartment. So it will be a nice opportunity for Wyndham Housing now to prepare ahead of time this apartment or private landlord. Yeah, it's good to go in that way. I'm sure people will be needing to be in their own space, especially where they're coming from, or, they will. And my third question would be, have you looked at people who are coming from Afghanistan who already live in Bradboro, so that they welcome these people? They will be happy to see their fellow Afghan or people from the same area, to welcome them and to feel just secure that it is coming, any information they receive from them, it is more coming from people they trust and they know they're coming from the same area.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there's a few excellent things you touched on, Dora. And one is the housing. We know, the idea of self-sufficiency is important, but also security and safety and having your own space is a priority above the just the basic needs that we share. So I totally agree about working with the Housing Trust and others to really make that a priority.
Alex, can I jump in on the education piece?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny, Dora and I represent the entire CASP staff right now, but we're you've been all morning working with people in job placement. I haven't yet had a meeting with you today. So I will say that we just finalized this morning that we're going to be offering a workshop, a community education workshop, aimed at sort of what to expect with Afghan resettlement, culturally speaking, and a little bit about the background of the process. And that's going to be on October 24th, which is a Sunday afternoon. And I've just put a little information about it in the chat. And I believe the speaker is on this call too. At least I saw him earlier. Noah Coburn is one of our two speakers, who is an anthropologist at Bennington College. So yeah, I'm sure that there will be lots and lots and lots more to come, but that's one initial place where folks can come and start thinking about these questions, which are really good questions.
Yeah, please think about the food. The food is the first culture shock everybody gets when they get.
Yeah. The points are very valid, a valuable contribution there, Dora. Again, we will reach out to all most of the providers here. I think the last time Kit and I met with the Jazz Center, Kit, I don't know it, but I think it's the Jazz Center,
the Vermont Jazz Center, yep.
Vermont Jazz Center. And part of the discussion, the initial discussion, is to organize some community event that will have educational piece to it, and cultural orientation and things like that. So we kind of welcome ideas, and please feel free for folks on this conference, reach out to me. Alice is going to put my email in there. If you have other suggestions, please feel free to send them to me.
Yes, and I thank you. I've also see Claire Gillis on the call, and just want to give the Wyndham World Affairs Council a shout out, because they are another organization that provides us education in our community. And that organization and many others like it have reached out to us to offer more education, similar to what CASP offers and very different from what CASP will offer. The museum and Vermont Center for Photography have also reached out in how they can support the artistic and cultural needs of new arrivals. And so I think you're all correct about, not just the basic needs, but what makes a thriving community is that culture and space to both practice it and celebrate it, and to learn about our own. And so that's certainly a priority that we share. Claire, I don't know if you want to mention anything.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for opening up the opportunity. Yeah, at Wyndham World Affairs, we host talks by speakers about once a month. Every so often we have panel discussions, and we were envisioning something like a panel discussion that would touch on issues that face refugees generally. I just saw the CASP event on October 24th looks great. That'll be a really great window into Afghanistan specifically. We would probably deal more with a variety of perspectives, but also just giving a sense of where refugee resettlement fits into US policy, generally speaking, how it fits into the post-World War II international order, just the basics of refugee resettlement, and some global historical perspective about the crisis of displacement in the world right now, and the fact that, I would say it's not that there's more war in the world right now, it's that national borders have crystallized and hardened in a way that, it just keeps getting firmer and firmer, and thus people have a lot of problems getting to a safe place. Obviously, the situation with Haitians at our southern border right now is, I'm sure, well known to everybody on this call. So yeah, if anybody would like to reach out to me directly, if they have some kind of expertise in these areas, happy to hear it. And yeah, we're really excited to play a role in educating the community and keeping the conversation going, and talking about the necessity of this. And yeah, I don't know, I feel so lucky to be in Brattleboro, and yeah, to be approved as a refugee resettlement destination. We really want to help these people as much as we can, and the community as well. All right, thanks.
Thanks. Judy, and then Bean.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind folks that even though Tracy in her overview said that everyone is waiting, well, the folks who are in the United States are waiting in welcome centers, that although those are probably better than life under the Taliban, they are still really, really difficult places to be at the moment. And I have, I work for the State Department and USAID, so I have firsthand experience. So just as we welcome and think about welcoming people, to remember that they have, they're arriving with a lot of recent, really challenging, difficult experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Tafine.
Hi, everyone. I apologize for not being on camera. My name is Tafine Dean. I work for Congressman Peter Welch, and I do healthcare, housing, and racial and social justice for the congressman. And I just wanted to say thank you for having this call, and thank you for the hospitality. And our office, Congressman Welch's office, is ready and willing to help however we can. We offer case management services as well. So if you needed connections to resources, we're happy to do that as well. And in DC, I know that Congressman had a phone call with Tracy last week, or the week before. My weeks are kind of getting all sort of melded together, but he is really fighting to include that language change and increased funding so that we can help the Afghan refugees really settle into life here in Vermont, and completely supported. And he has mentioned several times, this shouldn't be on the states to sort of take up that financial burden, but the federal government to sort of help with that. And so he's going to continue doing that. And I just wanted to offer our support and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Judy.
What happened to me? I have a suggestion for Joe, if you haven't already done this, to reach out to veterans organizations like the American Legion and so on, because these organizations might not be involved in this kind of thing generally, but as far as Afghanistan, I know there's a lot of support and we should try to tap into that.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, thank you, Judy. I will reach out. I haven't reached out to these groups, but I will add them to my list. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're just about out of time, and I wanted to just share some next steps and expectations for everyone. So you know, in one way or another, will get an email from Joe for a meeting. If you're one of these service providers, or you think you're one of the folks who will be providing one of those community partnerships in those first 30 to 90 days. That'll be in-person meetings we'll be having, and so you'll be brought up to speed, and we'll be working together on doing that. In the email that we send out with the link to view this meeting also, we will include links. I'm going to put them in the chat now.
I can do it, Alex.
Okay, so one of them is around co-sponsorship. And that is, you know, we discussed that, and that's if you're interested in becoming a co-sponsor, you can learn more about that and start filling out those forms with ECDC. The second link is going to be a place to donate financially, and that is through the ECDC's website. If you go on the ECDC website, again, we'll share all of these links. You'll see an opportunity to donate to support Afghan resettlement. And there's going to be a little opportunity for you to select Brattleboro. It's the ECDC MCC, the Multicultural Community Center in Brattleboro. So, of course, you know, supporting ECDC's work across the country is excellent. But to make sure that this funding gets to our community, to ECDC and our partners, that is how you can do that. And then lastly,
just to say thanks to Joe as well,
yeah.
Because the donations to the ECDC's Brattleboro page for the next couple of months, or else some of that will also go to supporting CASP as we support ECDC. So thanks in advance to Joe for that collaboration. It's really helping us to be fully present in doing this welcome.
Yeah. Great. And then again, you know, on that link around caspt.org/refugees, that both has the workshop that Kate mentioned, as well as the form to fill out the ways you are willing and able to volunteer or donate, host someone. And so those are the three major actions you can take, is fill out that form, donate if you're able. Joe just posted his email. I'll include that in what we send out. Consider becoming a co-sponsorship group, or if you know you're a community partner, just, you know, have a great weekend and expect a series of emails from Joe and I sometime soon.
I want to also add to Alice's thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone for coming. We look forward to working with each and every one of you. I will reach out, as Alice said. Some will be, you know, one-on-one discussion. If you have suggestions, if you have, you know, identified areas you want us to start talking about, feel free. My email is there. Send me an email, and I will reach out to you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.